Hey, this is Math Minutes Pro with Dr. Harrison. And today we're going to talk about how to solve equations with variables on both sides of the equation. So we got a few problems that we're going to solve in this session. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, I want to say that we are going to be using inverse operations. That is the addition and subtraction properties of equality, division property of equality, and I think we also have a problem that involves the use of the distributive property. So I'll make that clear when we're solving our problems. So here's our first problem here. And we have 3 times d plus 8. And we're going to set that equal to 2 times d, and that is minus 17. Now notice we have a variable on both sides of the equation. So the goal is to manipulate this equation to where we have a variable on one side, and then we have the solution, or what it's equal to, rather, on the other side. So I want to make a decision to have d on the left side. I could have it on the right side, it doesn't matter, but I'm going to. So in order to do that, I have to get rid of this 2 times d because it's on the right side. So the opposite of positive 2 times d is to subtract it. And whatever you do to one side of the equation, you do to the other. Draw that line. Remember, we're adding down, so 2 times d plus a negative 2 times d is 0. Cross that out, go back to the left. 3 times d plus a negative 2 times d. Think of it as 3 plus negative 2, which is 1, or 3 minus 2. So then that becomes 1d. I can just write d plus 8 equals. And then I bring down the negative 17. Now, I need to, again, isolate that variable d. I need to get rid of the positive 8. The opposite of adding 8 is to subtract 8. In this case, we use the subtraction property of equality for the first step. Now we're going to use it again. So we're going to subtract 8 here, and whatever you do to one side of the equation, you do to the other. Draw our line. And remember, we're adding down, so 8 plus negative 8 is 0. Cross that out. Bring down the d equals, bring down the equal sign. And then we have negative 17 plus negative 8. That, a negative plus a negative is a negative, and that is 25. So we have d equals negative 25. So very good. Now, let you stare at that for a moment. You remember, you can always pause if you need to catch up with the notes. Now we have a case where we're going to solve another equation with variables on both sides, but it's going to have some more steps than what we see here. So I may need to write a little bit smaller to get all the steps in here, but we'll work it out. So let's start with our equation. That's b. So we have 2 times y plus 3. And we're going to set that equal to 3 times the quantity of y plus 7. All right. You want to always know what you're going to do before you do it. We need to get rid of the parentheses on the right side. So that's the first step. So we're just going to bring down the 2 times y plus 3. Bring down the equal sign. And we're going to use the distributive property of equality, right? Okay. So in this case, 3 times y is 3 times y. And then we will bring down the plus symbol, and then 3 times 7 is 21. Very good. Now, think about what you want to do. Plan of action. Remember, we want the variables to be on one side, and then the other numbers, or we want the constant with the variable to be on one side, and then what it's equal to on another side. This case, and last time I dealt with the term with the variable first, but you can also get rid of the constant, or you can deal with these numbers first. So let's decide to get rid of the 3 here. So the opposite of adding 3 is to subtract 3. That's the subtraction property of equality. And whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. Write that minus 3 under this other constant and draw your line. Remember, we're adding down, so 3 plus negative 3 is 0. Bring down the 2 times y. Bring down equals. And then we have, bring down that 3 times y. We have 21 plus negative 3. That is equal to 18. So that's going to be plus 18. Very good. Now we still have variable on both sides of the equation. So I'm going to decide to get rid of this 3 times y on the right side so that it will only be a variable on the left side. So the opposite of adding, or a positive 3 times y, is to subtract. Minus 3 times y. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other, so that's minus 3 times y. Draw your line. Remember, you're adding down again. 3 times y plus negative 3 times y is 0. Cross that out. Now we're adding down, so we have a 2 times y plus negative 3 times y. All right, I'm going to bring the y down. You can also think of it as this, 2 plus negative 3, right? Which is negative 1. So that becomes negative y, okay? Looking pretty good. And let me go ahead and get rid of that so it doesn't create any confusion here. Bring down the equal sign, and that is equal to positive 18. But we have a coefficient, negative 1, in front of y. So we have to get rid of that. So I'm going to bring that down. And remember, we use the distributive property here, subtraction property of equality here, subtraction property of equality here. Bring down that minus y equals 18. The coefficient of that y is negative 1. So the opposite of multiplying y by negative 1 is to divide y by negative 1. So we're going to divide that by negative 1 and divide this side by negative 1. Negative 1 divided by negative 1 is positive 1. So we bring down y equals positive 18 divided by negative 1. That's negative 18. And this is our final answer, y equals negative 18. All right, so that's good for those 2 problems. I'm going to go ahead and stop here, and then I will erase the board so that I can get some more problems ready for you. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to solve 2 more problems, but these problems are a little different in terms of what the final answer will look like, okay? Some of you may have noticed when you're solving equations with variables on both sides, sometimes you get an answer that says no solution or all real numbers. Well, I'm going to show you what that looks like when you solve a problem. So we'll first solve a problem where you get an answer of no solution and show you what that actually means. Okay. Let's go ahead and call this letter C. And we have negative v plus 5 plus 6 times v. And we're going to set that equal to 1 plus 5 times v plus 3. I'm going to check and make sure I copied that right. Sometimes you can solve the problem right. You can actually solve it right, but you'll actually get the wrong answer. Okay? Because you didn't copy the problem correctly. All right? So in this case, we're going to go ahead and we have verified that everything's copied correctly. So sometimes we have a situation where we solve the problem right, but you notice you didn't copy it correctly. So I just verified that the problem is actually copied correctly. All right. So first thing we want to do, we notice on the left side, we have a negative v plus 5 equals 6 times v equals 1 plus 5 times v plus 3. In this case, I noticed that we have like terms. Terms are separated by addition and subtraction. So I'm going to underline my like terms here. They're same terms because, like terms rather, because they have the same variable and the highest exponent is the same. The highest exponent of the variable is 1 for both of these terms. And I also noticed that we have like terms here as well. So I'm going to identify them as like. Now I'm going to group these terms using the commutative property of addition. So I have negative v plus 6 times v plus 5. So now that I have them next to each other, and then write the equal sign, and then I have 1 plus 3 plus 5 times v. Okay, now let's combine these like terms here. Negative v plus 6v, that's like saying negative 1 plus 6, which is 5, but don't forget your variable, 5 times v. And then we bring down plus 5 here, equals, and then I'm going to combine these two terms, these constants. So we have, in this case, 1 plus 3, which gives us 4, plus 5 times v. Okay, now, let's go ahead and decide to get the variable on the left side. So I'm going to subtract 5 times v here and subtract 5 times v here. Yeah, it's starting to look weird. Because when we add down 5 times v plus negative 5 times v, we get 0. And then we get 0 here. So when we go back to the left, we bring down 5 equals 4. But is that a true statement? No, it is not. It is not a true statement. So we're going to draw a line through that to say that is not an equal statement. That's not a true statement. When you solve an equation where the statement is not true, your answer is no solution. No solution to this equation. We cannot find a value to substitute for v to make this equation true. Okay. Take a look at that for a moment while I get the next equation ready. Now we're going to solve a problem where the final answer is all real numbers, and I'll show you what that means. Okay, let's go. So in this case, we have 4 times n plus 6 minus 2 times n equals 2 times the quantity of n plus 3. So let me check it and make sure we got that copied correctly. 4 times n plus 6 minus 2 times n equals 2 times the quantity of n plus 3. Looks right. Okay, now, I look on the left side, I notice that there are some like terms here. And I also notice that I have to use the distributive property over here. Got to be able to recognize it, all right, because we're using different strategies to solve one problem. So the first thing I want to do on the left side is group the like terms together, all right? These are like because they have these terms have the same variable, and the highest exponent is 1. So I'm going to write 4 times n minus 2 times n, bring down to plus 6. Just grouping them together, all right? And then we're going to use the distributive property. 2 times n gives us 2 times n. And then plus, bring down the plus sign, 2 times 3 gives us 6. Okay, so we're looking pretty good here. Now, let's go ahead and combine these like terms. 4 times n minus 2 times n, that's 2 times n. 4 minus 2 is 2. Bring down the n. Plus 6. Bring down the equal sign. 2 times n plus 6. Aha! What do you notice? What's on the left side is equal to what's on the right side. 2 times n plus 6 equals 2 times n plus 6. Whenever you are solving an equation, and these are linear equations, because the highest exponent of the variable is 1, but whenever you're solving an equation like this, and you get this situation where what's on the left side is equal to what's on the right, that means you can pick any variable, any value for this variable n, plug it in, and you're going to get equality. Okay, so I'll give you an example. If I pick n equals 1, then 2 times 1 is 2. 2 plus 6 is 8. And I get the same thing over here. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 plus 6 is 8. 8 equals 8. So we say, in this case, I can pick any value of n and still get the same answer. So we say the answer is all real numbers. Okay? I've also seen some times they'll write it like this, a double R or something, okay? It just means all real numbers. All real numbers. I can plug in positive or negative numbers for n, and I'm going to get equality. All real numbers. All right, very good. So thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to check out my Patreon page on my video description below. On my Patreon page, you can get access to exclusive math lessons, study tips, live Q&A, and more. See you next time.